Hey guys, we're going to talk about something a little different this week, something that's a little bit out of our realm, but again, we want to make this an educational channel. And we met some subscribers of ours in Spokane a few months ago. John and his wife own Truett Cybersecurity, and we've been discussing some things with them over the past few months, and we just had this crazy idea. Let's put together a video on cybersecurity on the road, and we're going to share some things with you. John, tell them a little bit about your company.
Yeah, so Truett is a cybersecurity focused managed IT provider for commercial businesses. So we focus on the day-to-day cybersecurity and regular IT needs for small, medium, large businesses, and we take care of everything for our clients. So we just have a lot of knowledge in the space, and our focus is to help keep and make businesses profitable by taking care of their technology.
So we're going to shoot a few questions at John and talk to him about some of the things that we think you should know while you're RVing on the road, whether you're full-time or you're part-time, or even if you're in your sticks and bricks. We've got some good information to share, so stick around. So as we told you earlier, John and his wife have been subscribers of ours for
Over a year, a little over a year.
little over a year. And it was so cool because we had the opportunity to get together with them, and we've had dinner with them. We've just kind of hung out a little bit. And we got to thinking, what better way to talk to you guys about cybersecurity than somebody that's in the business, right?
Makes sense to me.
So we've had some conversations with John and his wife, and we thought this was really good information. So we want to go over some of the things that our community needs to look out for when they're using internet in their RV, right?
Yeah.
So let's start out real simple. Let's talk about Wi-Fi access, and we've done a couple of videos on our type of system that we have, and we have our style, you have your style, but what are the typical, let's start out with a phone hotspot, right? You've got phone hotspot. What else have we got?
Yeah, you've got phone hotspots. You have a traditional router, a cell phone device like a Peplink or a Cradlepoint is the other one that you have. There's other internet options out there. There's Starlink, which is always the topic that we always talk about.
Sure.
And those are really the primary three. You're really going to go cellular or satellite. That's really going to be your option. The third option, which personally I don't recommend unless you're desperate, would be to use a park Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, if you can get them to perform.
Yes, if you can. So if you're a professional like us, we tried to use them and they failed for Zoom calls, for example.
Sure.
They throttle you back. They're really good if you need to go, maybe you need to figure out your new route and you're using RV Trip Wizard or something like that, and you just need to get internet option, to shop or something like that. They're great. But they're public Wi-Fi's, just like Starbucks, just like any other coffee shop.
Okay, so park Wi-Fi is public.
Yeah, you want to just have the same cautions that you would have there. We recommend a basic VPN. So
okay, we're going to get into that in a second.
Okay, I'm always ahead.
Let's don't get ahead here. All right, so if we're working on either our phone mobile hotspot or a Wi-Fi hotspot from, say, Verizon or T-Mobile or AT&T or anything of that nature, it's no different. It's private. It's yours. It is quote unquote secure as long as you have password protected it, right?
Correct.
And so you really don't have any differences between that and, say, your DSL or cable internet in your sticks and bricks.
That's true.
As far as security is concerned.
As far as security goes, they are protected. They do have firewalls.
So we have two types of Wi-Fi access. We have public, which is your park Wi-Fi, Starbucks, McDonald's, whatever.
Right.
And then you have your own.
Right.
Okay. And if you use the public, be careful.
Correct. I wouldn't go hop on your banking information.
Okay.
And go do some of those things that you might do that are more private.
Okay.
On a public Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I would, unless you're going to take precautions.
Okay.
when you're talking about public Wi-Fi, we want to think just protecting our machine. So Windows machines, they do have some firewall settings within them, but the biggest thing is VPN. So VPN is really simply
Okay,
a
stop.
tunnel. No?
Stop.
Too fast?
Nope. Stop. VPN. What's it stand
VPN,
for?
Virtual Private Network.
Okay, VPN, Virtual Private Network. Kelly was given the eyes
yeah.
of,
Okay.
oh my gosh, I have no idea what you guys are talking about.
Virtual Private Network.
And what is that? What is a VPN? What is its purpose?
So a VPN simply creates, if you think about a water pipe directly to where you're trying to communicate to, the VPN simply just puts you on your own private communication network.
Oh.
That's all it really does.
Okay.
So it creates a direct tunnel to shut out all of the people around you. And it does some specific things, and really all it does is it just encrypts your data between where you're trying to talk to and the internet, so it doesn't just linger out there in la la land.
Okay, so on a public Wi-Fi network, such as an RV park or a Starbucks or a McDonald's, don't use your laptop on those networks for financial transactions, banking information. Make sure you use a VPN.
Correct.
And is there a cost for a VPN? Is there a technique for the VPN for those that don't know?
Here's what I'll say. There's free ones.
Okay.
But like anything else in life, you get what you pay for.
Okay.
A good paid one is usually like $6 a month.
Okay.
There's a couple of them out there that we can put in the show notes if you want, that are just, they're popular ones that I've seen. I've used a couple of them.
Okay.
And they work fairly well. So I would pay for one, to be honest. I know it's a subscription that it's, some people are like, don't add another subscription, but they're relatively cheap, and they're usually like yearly costs. That's really inexpensive for what it does.
Okay, so if you're going to use public networks, it's probably a good idea to start researching VPNs.
Correct.
Are there good versus bad, or are they all kind of the same?
I think they're all pretty much the same.
Okay.
I would stay with something that's U.S.
Okay.
based or one of the popular
Can you give a
ones.
couple of examples?
NordVPN is a popular
okay,
one,
okay.
and the other one is Surfshark are the two that I've used.
Okay.
Mainly because there's other people online who are promoting them from other videos that I've seen, and I've tested them myself. And
Okay.
so I know those two are decent.
Okay.
And Surfshark I've used for a while before I moved to my own one for my business.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to use a VPN, hopefully, if we're on a public network.
Yep.
If we don't have a VPN, make sure that we don't get into our financial
Correct.
information, paying with a credit card, paying with a blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then a private network, even though it's your mobile phone's hotspot, it is still your private network, correct?
Correct.
It's not a public network.
That's correct.
Because it's password protected and
it's secured by the provider. So if
Okay.
it's Verizon, T-Mobile, any of those,
Okay.
they on their side separate out each hotspot into its own network once it hits theirs.
okay. So now that you're on your own home private network, such as a phone hotspot, a Wi-Fi hotspot from AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever, or Starlink, or you're using a mobile router with a SIM card in it, then what kind of protections, let's go into protections on your own private network.
Sure.
And let's start with the email, if you don't mind, because
Yeah,
we've had this
totally.
discussion a little bit.
Yeah, we did recently.
And just so you guys know, we've been getting, and the reason that we're actually doing this video, we've been getting some interesting spam text messages and some interesting email messages through our Yahoo account. And the only reason that they would come through, they've got some information from Amazon. We've made some purchases on Amazon, and somehow, some way, the information is getting out. I'm not sure how it's getting out, but we've decided we're going to go to an encrypted email service, secure email, as our main email accounts. So how do people protect their email? You've got Yahoo, you've got Google, you've got, gosh, there's 1,000 freebies out there, and we're all about free. Kelly and I are all about free.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a bad thing. So here's what I'll say. From us being in the commercial segment of cybersecurity, every company, big or small, is probably going to have a data breach.
Okay.
Verizon had one, Yahoo had one, some medical places out here in the Northwest have had some colleges. We're seeing really big data breaches that are going to affect you at some point.
Okay.
So we can pick a really good subscriber or a really good email platform. You might still have issues.
Okay.
You can pick Amazon, and there's always potential that your password could get out there. So that's why we should talk about passwords specifically. I think that's actually a really good place to start.
Okay.
Let's talk about passwords.
Okay.
And just basic protection. Number one, I firmly believe in having a different password for every online thing you do.
So don't use grandma's
don't-
maiden name for your
correct.
password
Don't
on
use that.
all your accounts.
Right. Don't use the same thing all over. So that makes you have to use a password manager, which we'll get into. But you should have a different password. And when I mean different, I mean completely different. I don't mean your grandma's dog's name, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, it should be completely different.
Okay.
The reason for that is if your account gets compromised, that one password gets compromised, hackers know that human nature is to add a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the end. So they just start doing that, and eventually they find them.
Okay.
So it's really wise. Do something that's complex. Do something that's different for every single one of those. Don't use the same thing everywhere. And your chances of having more than one account compromised at one time is going to be slim.
Okay.
Also rotating them.
Okay.
So what we find is when we do dark web scans, and we actually scan the dark web for passwords for people, we find that usually the data breaches are like a year old, and sometimes people have a year-old password. So we recommend 6 to 12 months, just change your passwords.
Okay.
Go through and just make that a regular habit that you do. Again, if you have a password manager, it makes it really simple.
Can I interject here
Yeah, of
just real
course.
quick? So again, we don't want to make this too far over anybody's heads, but Kelly and I have a password manager that we're very fond of. And in fact, I just did it today. I went online and I clicked on, I got on a website and the website said it's time to change your password. Great, okay, so I can actually go into my password manager to that account, and I can click to generate a password.
That's how I do it.
With the minimum, with their requirements, whether it be special symbols, numbers, cap letters, whatever. A minimum of 8 characters, maximum of 25, blah blah blah, and that makes it really really easy to generate your passwords.
Totally.
And so a good password manager is probably, well, we paid for ours, but it was cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it cost me $12 for a family plan forever. It's not a subscription, it's forever.
And a lot of the good ones have a free plan that has some, like most
10
free
basics.
things. Right, you get 10 basics or you get some limited functionality. And if
Sure.
you want to get more, you upgrade.
Sure.
The other thing that's really cool is there's some new ones out there that actually look at the dark web. And if your password's found on the dark web, it'll prompt you to change that password.
Oh, wow.
So Keeper is one that does that
Okay.
very well.
Okay.
That one has a residential and a commercial side to it, so business and consumer. That's probably the one that we recommend, that we love. That's
Okay.
what I'm personally using in our business, and we really, we made the switch to that from something else and just love it. It's been a great product for us.
Okay.
But the important thing is to change them. The important thing is not to duplicate. And then the other thing, passwords alone are not the end-all be-all for security. Two-factor is the other thing we should talk about.
Okay, so explain two-factor.
So two-factor simply means that when you log in from a new location or you log in for the first time with a new computer, a website would prompt you by either using a password or a two-factor program to help you put in that code, or text message.
Okay.
It's the most common way. You've probably done this with your bank. You go put your password in, and then 3 seconds later you get a text message and it gives you a 6-digit code and you stick it in. That's two-factor.
But those are usually only if the website doesn't recognize the login from?
It depends. Banks will do it every time.
Okay,
Financial institution.
okay,
Some websites like Google, Gmail, for example, will do it only if it notices you at a different location or a different computer.
and if you're traveling full-time, you're gonna be at that
You
different
might,
location
yeah,
all
that
the
could
time,
be.
right?
It could be, or they will do it actually a lot of times by the information on your computer, like your MAC address of your machine.
Okay.
So they can tell that it's the same computer everywhere you go.
Okay,
So that's one way. So it's either going to be all the time if it's something really critical, or it's going to be a new computer depending on the product. But the important thing is to have it on there. And the reason why, say somebody has a data breach and all of a sudden they have your password. They can get only as far as two-factor allows them to go.
Okay.
So they can know your password, they can know your username, but you'll get a text message.
okay,
It also alerts you if someone's trying to get into your account, and if you're not sitting in front of your computer, you're driving and a two-factor identification notification pops up, that tells you, I probably should change my password.
good idea,
I might have something going on that I want to be aware of.
okay.
So it just gives you just another way of having visible knowledge that somebody might be doing something in your account.
Great idea.
Trying to.
Okay.
So that's number one. I would say for business and consumer, two factors probably the biggest thing somebody could do today to keep their stuff safe.
You know what I find interesting, and some of you will understand this, the Social Security Administration now is requiring two-factor on all logins.
Yep.
All logins,
Yep.
which I find very interesting because Social Security, most of us that access that website are old farts anyway, and that we have no idea what two-factor does, right?
Yeah, right, yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was interesting. All right, as far as passwords are concerned, we had a little discussion on keeping our phones and our computer software up to date.
Yeah. So here's one of the things that we're finding. There's a terminology we use in the cybersecurity world, which means 0 day. Sounds all scary, right? 0
Yeah.
day. What it simply means is a bad actor, as we call them, or a cyber criminal found an exploit or a vulnerability today that they can use.
Okay.
So it means today they figured out something that's not yet protected. That's what 0 day means.
Okay,
Once a notification gets to the vendor, so Microsoft, Apple, Samsung, whoever, they usually find and patch that immediately. And that's why if you've been around with computers for any length of time, say 10 years or more, you've probably noticed that the amount of updates that your phones, your computers require has exponentially increased. It's because of cybersecurity.
okay,
And so each one of those, Apple, for example, I'm an Apple user, and I noticed that they are bringing one out almost monthly in some cases because they're starting to find people who are starting to attack their infrastructure as well. So they're putting out regular updates for phones and computers and tablets. So if you are being asked to update, you should update.
don't put it off.
Don't put it off. No.
Okay.
It used to be a scary thing, like it's going to break your computer. That's
Right.
really far and few between.
Right.
Does it happen? Sure. But it doesn't happen as much as it used to. And I would go into Windows and Mac OS and turn on auto update and just let it do the work for you.
Okay,
And I do the same thing on all my devices are auto updated. It's super easy. And we push out updates to our clients the same way to make sure their computers stay up to date. That is one of the other biggest things you can do is just keep your stuff up to date.
all right, so now that we're connected, we're online on our own private network or with a VPN on a public network, and all our software is up to date, and we're very vigilant on keeping our passwords changed and up to date. So there's always somebody still trying to push stuff into our machines, right?
Yeah, that's true. And I'm going to start out with Apple because there's a myth.
Okay.
There's a myth. I think Apple creates the myth themselves too. And I love their products. I use them. But there's a myth that Apple can't be hacked.
Oh, there's a challenge.
There's a challenge. It's changing rapidly. They're putting out, now, I'll say this. It's less likely if you have an Apple device that you might have an exploit that, in comparison to a PC. It's been like that for a long time. But we're still seeing them in the wild. We're as cybersecurity guys, we're still seeing Apple's having viruses now. So I do recommend a good virus protection for Apple as well as PC. There's some good ones out. I've been a fan of Malwarebytes for a while. It's simple, it's lightweight, it doesn't hog a bunch of memory.
Malwarebytes.
Malwarebytes.
BYT.
BYTES. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great play on words. I think it's fantastic.
Okay.
They've been around in the industry for a long time, but there's some other ones. I saw that Surfshark actually has one of the ones, the VPNs we recommend. They have an antivirus as well.
Okay.
So you want to just make sure that it has some protection for ransomware as well as malware. So the ransomware piece is super important because that's a way to lock up and lose all of your data.
Right.
So just make sure it's a good one. There's a Russian one out there that I wouldn't use. Probably if I say it, most people know what it is. I'm not going to name drop, but I would stick with American.
That was my next question. Should we
I would say yes.
You look for US based.
I would do a US based company.
Okay.
That's not, I mean, we don't want to get political, but let's stay away from China and Russian products.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so but you did Malwarebytes is one.
Malwarebytes is one of my favorites.
And then
Surfshark is the one that has
Surfshark?
VPN.
Okay.
And they just added an antivirus to their product.
Okay.
So you can get both together. But there's all the other ones out there that you see all the time. There's Norton, McAfee. Most of those are okay. They're decent. Like I said, I was selling Malwarebytes when I was doing a lot of consumer work, and we were using Malwarebytes and sending that out to our products. So it's something they do a lot of research and development. I used to be a reseller of their stuff, and I've sat in their webinars, and they're a really cool company.
And viruses they can come in on stuff that you click, but they can also come in on emails as well, and that's something that...
Truth be told,
Okay.
I'm talking from a commercial perspective because that's what we do, 94% of cyber attacks come through email.
Oh, well, okay.
So if it's that in the commercial realm, it's that in the consumer realm as well, 94%.
Let's talk real quick about secure browsers.
Okay?
Kelly and I, and I'm going to put, we haven't discussed this. I'm going to put it out there. Kelly and I use Chrome only because it's convenient as heck.
Sure.
I mean, it transfers from machine to machine, from our tablet to our computer
100%.
to, I mean, it's there. All my bookmarks are there. All my favorites are there.
I use Chrome.
Okay.
I use Firefox.
Okay.
And I use Safari because I'm on a Mac.
Okay.
There's a lot of really good, I found another cool one that I don't remember the name, but there's some really cool browsers out there. There's some that are specifically, talk about privacy. Browsers are, I don't have a feeling directly about one or the other than don't save your passwords in them.
Okay.
Because.
So when you click on your bank information and Google comes up and says, do you want me to remember this password?
Yep.
Nope.
Correct.
Never.
You can actually, somebody could, if they got access to your computer, scan and look for passwords.
Okay.
It's very simple to do. It's a very easy script to run. We do it all the time for our assessments.
Okay.
Very simple. Really, most browsers do a really good job, and really when we're looking at, especially online shopping, we're looking at knowing the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. We had a conversation about this earlier.
We did.
Right, so when you're on
I'm surprised at how many people don't know the difference between HTTP and HTTPS.
The S simply just means secure.
I know that now.
Right.
I didn't know that before.
That's all it is. And so you want to only shop on an HTTPS website. And one thing that's really cool is Google has started to lower their Google results. So if you don't have HTTPS when you own a website, they will dock you and put you down at the bottom and not show you at all.
Okay.
So that's really important. When you're doing online shopping, you should never shop on something that doesn't have the S.
HTTPS.
That helps you with that tunnel we were talking about earlier with VPN, or just it creates a secure tunnel for sending information.
But still, you don't want to do it on a public Wi-Fi,
Right. Agreed.
only on your private Wi-Fi.
Agreed.
Okay. Okay. And then when you're doing your shopping, credit card versus debit card, I got to be honest, I'm not a big fan of a debit card, although my T-Mobile says I have to use a debit on my auto pay now.
Right.
I get it because the credit cards are charging so much. So it's against my better judgment to use the debit card, but they're a company that I've been dealing with for years and years and years. But if it's a company that I'm not familiar with, the difference between a credit card and a debit card purchase is huge.
And I would say if it's a knowingly reputable company you're doing business with every month, like T-Mobile, and you don't really have a choice,
Right.
you're stuck and you
Right.
just do it. Everything else, I'd put on a credit card because you could dispute charges, you can block that charge from happening again really easily, and generally credit cards will give you your money back.
All right, so we want to thank John for his time. He's a busy guy, and he took time out of his day to help us explain some things to you guys. We just want to make sure that you understand. We wanted you to see if there was any difference between your internet at home and your sticks and bricks with a DSL or fiber optic cable, or if you're running off of a mobile router or a cell service. As long as you keep your passwords and your software up to date and you're vigilant about not clicking on links in email addresses and that sort of thing, you're going to be fine. The biggest thing I think that we've learned is stay off of the public Wi-Fi. If you're going to use Starbucks or McDonald's or the park Wi-Fi, just make sure that you're using a VPN. And now that we know what a VPN is, you know, you can determine whether that's going to be a good cause for you or not. So again, we want to thank John for his time. We're going to wrap this one up from Cybersecurity Central. It all starts with an idea. Turn those ideas into reality and make some great memories, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.